So on today's special episode, we have wonderful people who have been introduced already. Malia Manu, Mr. Sunen Asue, Mr. Given Promise from BSO, Mr. Emmanuel Agodi from NNVS, Madam Agyampe. I will have Mrs. Agyampe Oyema from she's a development consultant. So, volunteerism in Nigeria, impacts, challenges, and opportunities. Man, you've written this research work. I'm sure you saw a lot. You discovered a lot while doing the research. Can you give us thoughts on it?
There's a lot of impacts on volunteerism. There are a lot of opportunities, which I gave while talking about the book. But all of us are in the sector, each person doing different things around volunteerism from the government side, from the NGO side. We know environmental conservation, disaster, emergency. So these are all the impacts. And the major thing is that volunteerism fills a gap where government is not able to provide. And that's why it's very, very good to have a strong partnership in the sector. Most times, and I'm just going to say this because a lot of times people want to control, I will use government, want to control the independence of citizens doing some of these things. But I think it works better if there is a partnership, each person seeing each other as a major stakeholder and respecting the role that each of us played. And because I went through a lot of material, I could see that government has really, really played a huge role in supporting volunteerism. It is not just structured. And so that opportunity is there to be able to have an office where we can walk into and say, oh, well, I'm a volunteering organization, or what area do you think I should put my service, things like that. That partnership, needs to be strengthened, and that's one of the opportunities that lies in that area.
Thank you. You mentioned a government office, the NNVS, while you were talking, and sir, that will bring me to you. Is volunteerism necessary for national development? And if yes, what role does it play?
The volunteerism is almost for development. You volunteer for development. And volunteerism and volunteer activities is tailored towards some areas of development which include economic development, social development, and political development. If you want to break it down a bit, in social and economic development, you have economic empowerment. You have to gather resources to empower and provide seed money for youth volunteers. We have skill circulation, talent development, and also we have engagement of youth in worldwide activities, which serve as a sort of employment, short employment. In social development, we have areas of education where volunteers can provide teaching, education management, health, mostly in environment where they can do revegetation and environmental management, and then advocacy and campaign against emerging social vices, emerging global issues, which volunteers can play a role in advocacy and campaign. Then on political, which we are talking about development and political development, where volunteers can advocate for good electoral laws. Volunteers can advocate for good electoral laws. Volunteers can mobilize for quick service delivery on voters registration, on voters voting pattern, or voters to vote at earlier time. And also, most importantly, like we lawyers among us, like volunteers, can provide a pro bono for court cases during elections, so that those who cannot afford to be given by the SANS can do a pro bono for such. That's all volunteers. So if you cross-check the economic, social, and political development in the society, volunteers can play a very vital role in national development.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sunen, I'm coming to you. I know you've done a lot of work on volunteerism in Nigeria, and I know you work with a lot of young people in the rural area. By the way, he's the executive director, founder of Development Train. So you've been working a lot with young people. What has been your experience working with young persons, and are there future prospects for them?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So we have been working with young people. In fact, for me as a person, I started off my career as a volunteer 10 years ago, and it sort of formed the basis, the bedrock for which all of the growth and the experiences that we've been gathering over the years has accumulated into. So when we started DevTrain 6 years ago, the organization where I co-founded with a couple of my friends, some years down the line, we now initiated a project called DevTrain Volunteers Academy. So it was simply, born out of the fact that we discovered a lot of young people are not employable. So when you put out application for call for proposals, you begin to see all the errors up until the point of even inviting them for interviews. And when they come, they are not making no sense. They are not bringing anything on the table. They are just there. The next thing, when you ask them, how much do we pay you? What do you hear? The other time I was on an interview panel, somebody said, pay us $500. And I'm like, did you even consider this organization? You came to Tudunwada in Lugbe, and you want to be paid $500 monthly. And in fact, I often tell them that if I hate any place to be, is to be on the other side trying to interview people. It's so annoying, the kind of things we hear coming out of people. So we wanted to see how we can come in and begin to provide skill set for young people. So we initiated the DevTrain Volunteers Academy. We were now, we applied for a particular funding opportunity last year, and we got it for $1,000 to just initiate that process. And then we started training them. So we do it on a 3-month basis, on a quarterly basis, where we put out the call for proposals for application. They apply to be part of the training program, and then we begin to develop their skill sets in different areas and aspects of development. So now, whilst conducting this training, we invite different facilitators to be part of the training sessions. They train them, proposal writing, project management, how to even carve good CVs, how to even present themselves during interviews and all of that like that. So it's been really challenging. First of all, the aspect of interest. Most times you find people who have applied, we interviewed them, they came on board, but now we're saying, what even brought you here in the first place? You are here, and then that expectation we are trying to expect from you, like, okay, be proactive, it's so hard. Okay, let me not say annoying, because I'm growing matured, by the day, and then I'm beginning to really understand that yes, it's like evangelism. So we can reach out to 100, but even if it's just one person, that's the point where we've gotten to now. We are satisfied. Why? Because we had CV sessions this is the 7th cohort we're about to start now. We've graduated 73. We'll be graduating the next set of 15 by end of this month. So, the numbers are growing. But let me give an example. So there's a CV session that we normally have in each cohort. When they come, we guide them on the processes of how they can have a CV, and then get to even work with them to put together a CV that they can, when they graduate from the network, they will now use that as a tool to apply for jobs. To my amazement, the percentage that have returned, that have worked on their CVs and sent back to us that, okay, let us look at it and put one or two together, is not up to 10% of this number. I'm talking of 73 that has graduated. We've not had up to 10% sent back their CVs like, okay, we have built this, look at it, and then tell us the way forward. That's, to me, one of the major challenges. That, okay, what is even wrong? Is it that you don't want to get jobs? Is it that you don't want to build this level of resilience, or all of that like that? That's another one. And then talking about also prospects, at the organizational level, we have a pool of resources. We've had opportunities that people call us that, okay, we have an opening, can you refer? and then we get to refer them, okay, yes, we know that we have trained this one, we know that this one is resourceful, you can have them. So some of them have gained such, form of employment, and we consider that a plus. Those who have social enterprises, we are beginning to hold them by the hands, work with them to say, okay, how do you put structures? How do you ensure that this works for you? How do you ensure this happens and all of that like that? So we are growing matured by the day, and then ensuring that it's not so much about the numbers, but let's pick people who are really, really interested in building their, career prospect and then growing. And then finally on that also, whilst we are conducting these trainings on a monthly basis, we're also integrating other aspects. So for every cohort that graduates, we don't just leave them, we get to do reviews. Okay, what do we need to plug back into the system to make it more robust? Before now, it was strictly for just development sector, but now we're beginning to add, modules on businesses, on entrepreneurship, to see how we can sort of expand and not just make it a development thing and all of that like that, but have it more expanded to reach out to more young people who may be interested in other areas or other career, path, but may not necessarily know how to go about it and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sunen. Fortunately, too, I started my career as a volunteer, and so far it's been good. It's been good. One other challenge we've noticed in volunteerism is about inclusion. Is it that it's made for a specific people? Is it that it's made for guys alone or able-bodied persons and all of that? Malia, I'm coming to you. And I've also heard conversations where they say that, is it that more males are involved in structured, formal volunteers than women? What are your comments on volunteerism, and what has been your experience as a program officer working in Nigerian Women Trust Fund? Thank you.
Well, I would not say, yes, maybe we don't have more women engaged in volunteerism. I would say maybe it's because the opportunity, a lot of them don't even know that they can volunteer. I also started my career as a volunteer with prisons. So I think it's just if you are aware that you can volunteer without being fully employed by maybe the prison service, like in my case, it opens up your mind to the possibility of so much more. When I volunteered with the prisons, it helped me truly see that you must not necessarily be a criminal before you are in prison, and they are just people that with the right opportunities they can do better. So it helped me limit or reduce my criticism of people that are in jail, because I'm a lawyer, so usually it's just, this person just did not obey the law. But it makes you look at it from a broader perspective. For women not participating, I think if there's intentional reasons for including women do participate. We have at the Nigerian Women Trust Fund a National Institute for Women and Girls on Ending Violence, and it's all women across the 36 states that volunteer, and we train them here and we dispatch them back to their states, and they carry out volunteer programs, pet projects on ending violence against women and girls. And unfailingly, every year we put out a call for applications. We have much more than we need, and it's a very taxing process to screen and select the women, the girls that will need 18 to 35 years. We also have our Gender and Election Watch, which the moderator has spoken about earlier. These are just citizen observers that help us observe elections within different states when elections are being conducted. So we have due observers also in the Edo and Ondo elections. And because we are a women-focused organization, we ensure that at least more than half of the number are women, and we have more than enough women. So we intentionally seek out women. When we are asking for observers, we say we want, for example, in Edo we have 50 observers. We want 40 women and maybe 10 men, or 35 women and 15 men, just to make sure women are a majority. And you still hear people calling and saying, is there still space? I know someone that would like to volunteer. So I don't think women don't want to volunteer. I just think we need to intentionally seek them out. We need to also let them know of those opportunities. Once they know they are being sought out, they are always available. And it's, for our observers, it's not just 18 to 35. We have women of 60 years that volunteer to observe the election. So it's not that women are not interested. They just don't know or they've not been given the opportunity. Or some organizations will just say, no, this person cannot do it. But because we intentionally seek out women, we always have women volunteering.
Wow, wow. Okay, thank you very much for that. Mr. Given, I'm coming to you now. This is the doctor of volunteerism, international volunteer. Well, we can already see from your card from VSO, volunteer service overseas. What's the international perspective to volunteerism, right? And how can regional and international partnerships enhance the scope and impact of volunteer programs in developing countries?
Okay, thank you so much for this. I'm sorry, I need to appreciate the presence of our boss here and the work of our area researcher. And my father is a national engagement. He's my father. So first of all, we need to dissect what volunteers are, what volunteerism is, and why international engagements or support are needed for such activities. At some point in international development, people and say there are a lot of things that needs to happen, and they came up with a statement or a phrase they called Millennium Development, and they now saw that it wasn't working, and they now said, let us do sustainable development. I'm not a doom prophet, but 2030, we will hear another development.
It will continue.
It will continue because problems or challenges never end, and the mantra for the sustainable development goal is leave no one behind, and that is what drives the engagement for international organizations to ensure that volunteerism brings the vulnerable, the hard-to-reach people into decision-making and participation that affects their lives. So for organizations, international organizations like VSO, we are actually interested in getting women, persons with disabilities, and youths in the developing world. Because in the Western world, the so-called unknown developing world, it's observed that the developing space always segregate development participation. I am a multi-citizen of Nigeria. You can call me an Igbo man. You can call me a Rivers man. So Igbo is east, Rivers is south. And there's nothing different from those places and the north. I work in the north, basically, where I go to train people, and normally women just go behind. Nobody tells them. Nobody advises them.
Culture.
Thank you very much. Culture allows them and informs them where to sit and places them in a position where they feel the society needs them to be. And in trying to see everyone involved in the conversation of development or sustainable development, all voices matter. And I'm not talking about persons with disability because those persons are seen as they are not part of us. And that, I'm just giving you the background to why international organizations saw the need for volunteerism in situations in development countries. And people like, countries like UK came up with volunteer force, where you see people come to Africa, the Christian body like the Catholics, most of us are parents. You see, they call them missionaries. They are not in a structured salary payment. It is strictly out of passion. So now that's where the definition of volunteerism comes in. It is not because you don't have a job. It is because you saw a need And it's because you saw the impact of not attending to that in the next 10 years, 20 years. And if you don't act on it now, there's a boomerang that's going to happen. And the impact of that boomerang is going to be more than the tsunami. And that's what's affecting Nigeria, having to realize what it is now to what it is. To just end this conversation, let me not continue speaking. International organizations try their best to see how they can harness existing structures in communities or in the state to include people and expand the scope of volunteerism in every region. And that's why we came into Nigeria. We saw the need for teachers in some states to be added in schools, because we lack teachers. Like my mentor used to call me and ask me, so what can we do with youth and PWDs in this area in terms of waste management? We don't have to pay some people, just call them. We have a challenge. There's a lot of business in waste management. How can we train people on recycling, train people on waste management, picking? There's so many value chains in those lines. And that's why we also come in to see how those things happen. And in terms of policies and structures, just like you mentioned in your research, it's vital that we understand that policy or frameworks are what drives conversations in every nation. People will not attend to you if they don't have any law backing what you want to do there. And that's where the international community also comes in. So I think I should there's a lot of, this conversation is not for 20 minutes again. So let me just end here and allow people that already have the authority to speak, like my boss, to the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're going back to our researcher. You know, having done this work, you know, what are the potential long-term benefits? Because you spoke about institutionalizing the volunteerism in Nigeria. What are the long-term benefits for us as a nation?
I think everybody has said something in relation to the long-term benefits. So national development, you know, you've mentioned that already. Sustainable development, me, I'm an SDG advocate, always been interested. And from the international and global perspective, yes, the MDGs did not succeed because they were focusing on poverty. And at the end of the MDGs, we saw that there were so many things, like he said, and the world is facing. We talk about inequality of women and gender inequality in Nigeria, not only in Nigeria. So they had to disaggregate all of these things in a way that every country can partner and feed into some of those things. So we still talk about the SDGs. If 2030 comes, we will continue because, like he said, development never ends. And for us, whether we like it or not, if you've been to places like Asia, Japan, you'll be wondering what is happening to Africa. I'm not going to use the Western world of UK or whatever. We're talking about real-time development. Even Rwanda, so, you know, people that were not in the picture before. So these are things that volunteerism in different ways, whether structured or individual contribution, like he was saying, Mr. Agodi was asking him about environment. We have a waste problem in Nigeria. And if we don't begin to groom our young children to say, look, focus on these things, then we're in trouble. So these are some of the long-term benefits. And we talked about clubs and civic education and all of those. These are things that we need to start from primary school. So that when people but the problem with Nigeria is we intervene in the middle. We don't go down to the roots and say that I think we feel teaching. There's a problem in teaching, or I don't know, we just give directives. But we need to teach. Why educate people? Why do you need to do these things? So that when they grow up, all of us here, we've gone. And sometimes I always say, when you give birth to a child in Nigeria, just separate them from us. Because each and every one of us have a character of Nigeria that we do not want. So the long-term benefits will also include introducing the young children early to volunteering and giving back. There's something in giving back and service. It's not just about, and I agree with him because I'm doing an internship recruitment right now. And I'm like, my God, what CVs are these? People will not even follow instruction. They will not upload what you're supposed, things like that. And I think it's because we don't teach. We just assume that you finish school, so go and do this on your own. So we need to start building, incubating our young people for things like that.
Yes, we'll come to you, sir. Let's stay on you, man. I know you run a civic school,
yes,
sort of, for young persons. How has that experience been?
It has been very good, actually. When I started thinking about civic leadership, how we can get more young people into things like this. And people are like, I'm like, see, if we don't do this, we're not going to get the next generation of people that we are looking for. Some of us were exposed to some of these things, either through our parents. When I was growing up, we must read newspaper in the house and have those conversations on the table. Yes, but how many parents have the time to do that now? Not a lot. And that's actually even, some of them were my friends' children. When I gave feedback to their parents, they're like, oh, I didn't know they have opinions like this. I'm like, do you engage them? You need to engage them, because social media is teaching, and you don't want them picking up the wrong sort of, yes, I'm all for globalization, educating yourself, but we also have a culture in Nigeria that we need to preserve. And I think those are some of the things we should consider.
Yes, sir, you wanted to say something?
Yes, you're talking about the long-term impact of volunteerism. So I learned this for the first time when I was doing the first master's in NNVS. I understood that Africa was an egalitarian society.
Was?
Yes, because through colonialism we became capitalist, but some states are still struggling with being capitalist and egalitarian at the same time, like Nigeria. So what does that mean? It means we don't allow you, or we don't see you suffer and allow you suffer alone as an African. So when Africa sees that a fellow African is suffering, it is the responsibility of an African to help another African. Community. So you see, community guards, military men in quotes, community lawyers in quotes. People say go to Europe and school and come back and teach your people. And that's what the Igbos we do. We call it Igbo marketing. But aside from what I want to say, we need to change the behaviors and create a lot of awareness about what volunteering and volunteerism is or should be in the African context. So when I speak about what volunteering is internationally, I don't tell them what they want to hear. I tell them what we need to practice in Africa. So we have a life in Africa that was, I don't know if the word corrupted, that was diverted or misdirected to another part of life that we're now pushing hard towards. But now we need to bring it contextually to Africa and see when a woman that is in stillbirth or going through stillbirth and somebody has the skill to take her out, will be called, please, Mama Hajia or Hajia, somebody is giving birth to the king's father. She runs down. She's not asking you how much will she pay me. That's the work of volunteers. They're not asking how much will you pay me. It is the service delivery that volunteering focuses on. And that person, I was asking when she was talking, I said, what happens to retired men engaging in volunteerism in Nigeria? We don't have it in Nigeria. My dad died. He was a very educated health practitioner. He died trying to become a king in his community. Whereas if after retirement, government put a compulsory 1 year or 2 years, just like they force students to NYSC, that okay, as you are retired, we have 1 year or 2 years for you to go and do volunteering in so.
Okay.
So you know that they're not just pausing your life after 35 years of service, they are transiting you into the service. And when young ones like us are coming up into a structure like that, you know that after 35 years, we are having extra 2 years that we might be sent to somewhere. And that is why all these political, please don't allow me to write one word. Help me. Political retirees would force their way back to the National Assembly, recycling themselves. Because when they sit and think, what will I do after these 8 years? Oh, I'll suffer. So let me go and recycle myself and do whatever it is to come back and be relevant. So you're trying to project what you're saying. I'm just saying we should put up a structure, like also suggested in your research, put up a structure, policies and framework or act that allows behaviors to change, allows people that have retired from services, that have made impact in services, not to go and become ambassador in Korea or in the Republic. Go and become ambassador in any state where they are having health issues. Become ambassador in Borno State where they are having disaster issues. Become ambassador in Cross River and Abuja where they are having risk management. So when you know that the risk management expert in your 35 years, a long time you've seen a lot of things. So come here, it's Nigeria, do it for us, and 2 years you can help us identify structures that were not in place, improve capacities, and the nation will also say thank you and say platform for you to remedy all the wrong things that you must have known.
Thank you. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Emmanuel, we're coming. So, a lot has been mentioned about structure. I've also heard things about being intentional and institutional about volunteerism. I've also heard things about you expending acts of, they seem like random acts of kindness, still on the same volunteerism. How does the service view all of, does the service recognize all these as acts of volunteerism? Because some seem formal and some seem like, oh, I just want to be kind, I just want to be a good person. You know, how does the service view all of this?
The traditional definition of volunteerism seems to capture both informal and formal activities of volunteerism. The recent authority of volunteerism seems to discount informal volunteerism, because I'm not said that if you are volunteering and it's not formal and it is not structured, then it is no longer volunteering. That's I can't remember the name. That's what authority says. Because you are trying to differentiate between being kind in your locality and now having a structural activities that will lead to development. Now that we are seeing volunteerism for development, no longer being kind in your community, helping and elderly people, the latest version and the latest authority of volunteerism is saying that volunteerism must be formal, it must be structured, it must be coordinated, it must be tailored and mainstreamed into the development priorities of your country. So if your country is now focusing on environment, health, education, then as you are volunteering, it has to be mainstreamed. The essence of having a thematic group of volunteerism, which NNVS is supposed to coordinate, is that to bring stakeholders from different diverse backgrounds together and now know the area, they are carrying out volunteering activities. And the coordinating agencies have the mandate to mainstream these activities into the priority development of the country. And how do you do this? It's by coordination and by structuring it. And when you are structuring it, you are talking about formal volunteerism. The argument behind it is that, yes, informal volunteerism contributes to the development of the society, yes. But what are the gaps in the informal volunteerism? There are a lot of gaps because you cannot measure their contribution, you cannot quantify the number of volunteers, the carrying out volunteer activities. All these gaps will be solved on coordinated volunteerism and formal volunteerism. So there is that saying that formal volunteerism maximizes the benefit of volunteerism, unlike informal volunteerism. And which is true. Formal volunteerism maximizes. Yes, we agree that there is benefit in volunteerism. The formal volunteerism maximizes it, optimizes it, rather than informal volunteerism. So when government recognizes this, we follow the pattern of the developed countries where they have an agency where they create institutional framework coordinating, structuring volunteerism, which Nigeria followed, and that's why they created the Nigerian National Volunteerism as institutional framework that will coordinate and structure volunteerism and mainstream related activities into development as well.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Ms. Malia, how can volunteer programs foster social inclusion, social cohesion among communities in Nigeria?
Well, I think even though Mr. Emmanuel has said the formal is more is optimized than maximizing better. Because of, I'm going to localize it in Nigeria where we are, and because we lack the structure that we need to coordinate a formal coordinate formal volunteerism. I think we would need to work with what we have, which is the informal. And while we strengthen the formal coordination, we can strengthen the informal coordination of volunteering. So if we are trying to build social cohesion, inclusion, we need to make use of our traditional local forms of volunteerism. For example, traditionally we had age grade groups which were supposed to be they helped with community mobilizing when there needs to be the market square needs to be cleaned up. Those were the groups that would do that. With colonialism and all that, we've lost a lot of those traditional structures that we could look at loosely as a kind of volunteer structure that we had locally. But we can also re-establish those structures. So in a community where you have majorly young people in Nigeria, generally, we can fast track or loosely structure those informal structures, such as our age grades, our women unions, and use them to fast track or ensure that the development of social cohesion we are trying to build is optimized or we achieve what we are trying to achieve. So I think we can use those local structures to optimize social cohesion and while we wait and advocate for
our structure.
Yes,
yes. Mr. Su, technology. You've been in the field, you've been training volunteers, so I believe you have an in-depth understanding of the volunteering landscape, particularly in Nigeria and our local communities. How do you see this being affected by technology? What role does technology play in all of this?
Okay, thank you very much. We are still really trying to get a hold of how we can make, particularly as regards trainings, the involvement of technology and make it really work for us. So beyond the awareness we have been creating on social media platforms, on websites and all of that, having training sessions now, we have not delved into that yet. It is still what we have told ourselves, okay, let us learn the ropes with having physical, training sessions first, and then as we proceed, because already there are demands. People are already asking questions. Whenever we put out call for applications for our academy, we begin to receive requests that, okay, is there a virtual session? Is there this and all of that? Okay, we sat the other time to even try to unravel that, okay, let us even discuss this first. How do we include digitization of what we are doing now? And then suggestions started coming up that, okay, number one, we can begin to have our sessions hybrid. That's both physical and virtual. Now, for the virtual now, we are still, trying to understand or trying to also see how, okay, the issues of availability of network, the issues of, data, having complaints from our fellows talk of data, and then the issue of even having them stay online to learn. Because the minimum we go with our trainings, that for Friday, is for 3 hours. Or sometimes 4 hours. And then for Saturday is more than 5 hours that we have those trainings. So that we can really have engagement, have that connect and have that level of transfer of knowledge and all of that. That we do not see it happening when we have virtual, because we can all remember during Corona when we're having meetings online, where you just see people just go and just log in and have attendance and then get to leave and all of that. Now you start calling people's attention. Are you there? And all of that like that. So that aspect was still not fully in on it yet. So another suggestion that also came up was that, okay, is there a way we can now have maybe a digital learning platform where all of this now can then be uploaded, and then we can have learners or our fellows go there and learn at their pace and all of that. That also is what we are now trying to consider, maybe going forward, and maybe getting to also discuss it to our donor that, okay, this is what we are facing currently in terms of having other people participate beyond just Benue. Because for now, we're just focusing on Benue, and then we're just trying to do a limited number with the space we have, and then see how we can have the training really, let it be a process. Like you said, rightly said, let it be an incubation process where we know, okay, for these 3 months they are spending with us, we're going to engage with you, we're going to get feedbacks from you. Whenever there are challenges, we'll have all of those things, trashed out, and then work with you and all of that. And then beyond just having them being trained, we have a network, the Deaf Volunteer Academy, where we now have them in the network. There also is the post-learning experience where we are engaging also, we are sharing opportunities and all of that. So we are still working on that yet. We know by the time we are done with it, we will now be able to have a say concerning digitization of all of this, and having how social media or how digital platforms can promote what we are doing and have it on the landscape. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Before we go to the floor for questions or comments, I want to remind us that it's still your favorite podcast show, Democracy Games. And for us at Proactive Gender Initiative, we have an online academy on our website where we teach you active citizenship courses on community organizing, election observation, gender and social inclusion. Just check out our website at www.progender.org, and you'll see the courses tab on the right pane. Click on it and please sign up for our courses. Ma, your final thoughts, please, your closing remarks, basically. It's been an insightful conversation.
Yes, it has, and just hearing what everybody has to say. Yeah, the future of volunteerism, there is a future. That's not a question anymore. There's a future, and I agree with Mr. Agodi when he talks about the traditional forms and how people now view it as just being kind. I think we need to set our own pace in Nigeria. If that is our culture, then we need to incorporate it in a way that it also feeds directly into our development. And I don't think it should be eroded. We are a kind and communal people. That's how we've always been. Yes, there is a new wave. We talk about it all the time. When we're growing up, you ride your bicycle to the next street, your parents won't even look for you. Now, I don't know who my neighbor is. I don't know their name. I don't know how many children they have. Everybody is just in their own space. So, but these are things, we always have to move with the times and also go back and say, how can we incorporate everything together? Technology is going at such, a fast pace. But are we really sitting back to look at how there's blockchain technology now, there's this online digital learning. People are learning from all over the world. You don't need to go to that place. So how can we incorporate this into volunteering? Me, I'm a strong believer in volunteering. It not just only improves your person, your skills, but if you have and the next person has, then we're all happy together. It's not when one person has and you cannot give to the next person. That's where the problem is. So I feel that for the future, we can look at all of these recommendations and all the work people have been doing to see how we can strengthen the office of the NNVS and then make a national coordination for all of these things, even though there has been some improvements from my conversation with Mr. Agodi and the feedback from the validation meeting. And I put it here about the blueprints and things like that. So those are things that we can move forward with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Given, please. Your final words.
Okay, my final would be basically two. So Nigeria doesn't have a volunteer database. They don't have it. So it's something that NNVS should call up. NNVS should call for a meeting. It's not, there's a meeting they will send in your office email. You will see red alert. It means emergency. So it's not something that let us see if they will gather. Let us allow them to come. Let us talk about it. It's an emergency situation. There's crisis in the east. I saw when you wrote a Bubago. It's serious in the east.
Very serious.
It's very serious. And people cannot come in and solve a problem except you solve it yourself. And security issues, we need to solve it ourselves. That's why people are vying for community policing. Because all the criminals that are coming from outside, we are giving keys by the criminals inside. Exactly. So in terms of disaster management in our different states, by now, I was in the news this morning, a reporter was saying the government agency present was telling them outside the camera that they are having to create committees to go and attend to people dying in floods in Borno State. If we have a volunteer database, is to call NNVS. In fact, at the point where they hear that floods have started, the director shouldn't be here. She should have called people in that state and exposed them to the database, call these people, send them in, and yes, in this database you have people that are skilled, people that are craftsmen, people that are needing capacity building, and those are the things that NNVS will now call on the VSOs and the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Please, we need money, we need resource persons to train these people on how to take care of humanitarian crises, emergencies, and all that. And these are the things that we should be talking about. Seriously, we should be talking about all these things now, because people, if you speak to Nigerians outside, they have lost hope for Nigerians inside. In fact, they think we are surviving.
We are surviving now.
No,
Every day you have to thank God.
Apart from the database, there's something else that we need to get on to put a rider on your strengthening of the NNVS. So the NNVS is a national body, but the body should have an office. The body should have an office responsible for coordinating volunteerism. So if we call on the director, she sits on the neck, assumption, she sits on the neck of Mr. Inodi, coordinating volunteerism in Nigeria. So if government wants to have data of educators or volunteer educators in Nigeria, she will ask the doctor, how many educators do we have as volunteers in Nigeria under our database? So apart from having a database, we should have an office. I'm not talking something that is my last word. So on camera, please, this is my last word. This is a recommendation to be added on this. So it's not my last word. So this is a recommendation as a last word. So you have that office domicile that will tell you in Borno we lack manpower to carry out this activity. We need you to give us funds to get people from social states close by to add because they have those numbers. Because data is vital in trying to attend to emergencies and humanitarian. And that's why volunteers are needed in every country. And Europe understands the importance of volunteers. And that's why they have a lot of people leaving the military, becoming volunteers. People that have money, wealthy people becoming volunteers because they have been trained, they have exposed themselves to the social behaviors that volunteers should have. They understand the goal of volunteerism. They understand the situation that the nation needs their services, and they know that they have the capacity to give change in those areas, and that's why they come in. We should give Nigerians those opportunities and see how development in Nigeria comes in.
Nice. Sir, I will let you speak last. You speak last, sir. Yes. And I remember also during my tour of United States public safety institutions, there's this place that they call JOCs, Joint Operation Centers. Yes, during times of emergencies or such national occurrences, you see the place, the hall is very big. You see it's flooded, computers, cameras, with people doing stuff, and guess what? It's all full of volunteers. They are all volunteers. During hurricanes, you see them mobilizing, trying to find families who require help, trying to find people who are willing to offer help, and making all this kind of solving problems basically, and it's all a volunteer.
Even our data in Nigeria, population data, volunteers can do it in 1 week. In 1 week.
Interesting. I'm sure there are political angles to that.
My last word will be just reminding what I said already. Civic education, I believe, should start from primary school. You cannot build a culture of volunteerism without it being indoctrinated into young people. If the average Nigerian today, you ask to help with whatever, is asking for money. But if they have that knowledge that what I'm offering is not everything that has to be tied down with money. I can offer services that benefit mankind, and it is still as useful to me as getting money would be. So I think we need to ensure that civic education is not just an elective secondary school course, but it's something that from primary school is taught to Nigerians. They have a sense of citizenship, a sense of wanting to help their neighbors, a sense of wanting to make the country better. Also with inclusion, because I'm inclusion, I think it has to be intentional. If you are getting volunteers, you have to make sure you are ensuring women are on the table, persons with disability are on the table. Because when we talk of volunteerism, we assume people with disability don't want to volunteer or are unable to. But in one way or another, they are able to volunteer. And I'm sure we know even albinism is a disability. So, because a person is having albinism doesn't mean the person cannot volunteer. Because a person is having any other challenge, in one way or the other, they can volunteer. Whether the person is blind, they can make phone calls. So, all that is still include every facet of society, men, women, PWDs, and even youth, young people. They have something to offer and bring to the table. So intentional inclusion will be my final words.
Intentional inclusion.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So I will just say two things quickly. One, like I opened earlier, I started off with passion. Like the way passion was bubbling me 10 years ago, hey, let's do this, let's change the world. It was volunteer that set me on course to actually know that, hey, beyond this passion, you need to know how to stay in one place for 8 hours. Coming to work. I never knew all of that. Living in NYC, it's school and all of that. I would be imagining, how can I stay in one place for 8 hours? Now, sometimes I'm even asking for 16 or how many hours so that we can wrap up one work or the other. Those are some of the things volunteering did for me. Now, I want to speak to leaders of organizations here who may have one reason or the other to take interns or volunteers. Please, let's not abuse volunteering. I've been in places where a volunteer is going home to go and wash ED's clothes or wash ED's car. I mean, so at the end of the day, have you maximized the opportunity for that person and all of that? I've seen a lot of things, right? Toxic workspaces where they are coming to learn, and then the things they are taking out is too, like, I can't even imagine. I don't want to start saying, but we know what it means for us to abuse. Let's not abuse it from the point of we as leaders making it a horrible experience for those who are coming. But let's make them see that it's a leap to where they want to go, like some of us have benefited. Now, when I cannot say anything about my career, journey without mentioning the fact that volunteering played a pivotal role in all of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then to our grandfather of volunteerism in Nigeria, the NNVS. Sir, you will respond last.
Yeah,
yes,
my last comment, some clarification.
Okay.
well, starting from women cross fund. If you check our policy, the number of policies, national policy, and policy,
Volunteerism.
emphasizes on people living with disabilities. It emphasizes on different shapes of people. Turning their effort into volunteer action. So it is inclusive. That will come into discussion. Then concerning some treatment of volunteers, yes, that's why we are talking about structural volunteerism. Structural volunteerism, it means that when you are getting a volunteer, you tell the volunteer the job specification, the job load, what is expected from you, and what is not, and monitor and inspect him. That will not go outside the job specification. But if it is the other way around, there is nothing like job specification. Then I now come to, that's responsibility and then structure. Then the government is trying, the government is really trying in setting volunteerism. While we have structured volunteerism, volunteer activities in the country, we soon launch our blueprints. And these blueprints have activities in 9 sectors of the economy: health, education, agri, humanitarian, security, migration, defense, economic empowerment, up to and then coordination. 10 areas that have structured activities, all kinds of activities. Under environment, the project you are talking of, we have a lot of activities on emergency, which could be fraud, it could be education, it could be anything, rescue mission. Despite that the election emergency and FEMA are doing their own work there, with the central coordination, we have activities already done. It will be launched soon. Then on issue of data and technology, the government is also harnessing technology to improve volunteerism in the country. One, because technology will serve as a way of expanding the ways people can volunteer. For example, online volunteers. Two, technology can serve as a tool to measure volunteer action, to supervise volunteers, to even detail their work and other things. But finally, through technology, we can raise or create and establish volunteer database, which government have already done. It will soon be launched too, where we will capture the profiles of Nigerian volunteers, international volunteers, get the profile down, and deploy them to wherever the government wants to deploy them for services. So my final word is confidence about it. But we talk about bureaucracy, arranging the we are government. Bureaucracy means being careful. It is not slow. We are being careful. We look at things, we check everything before we come out with it. But eventually, let me use the word, people rush it. We are coming on
Passion.
We are coming on gradually, and the government is doing a lot of things to strengthen our reposition volunteerism. It is when government strengthen our reposition volunteerism. This is our database, this is our blueprint, this is our report and our achievement that we get government to say, let us strengthen them further by going to the act. I want to establish, I want to clarify that. Government cannot say NNVS, we want to give you to act to certain end. Government will not do it. It is we, because it is we that produce the memo. The memo you will produce will outline your achievement so far. The one that have threatened you, how far have you gone with it? The one that have repositioned you, how far have you gone with it? When you achieve all this, you put up the memo that, you are giving adequate resources, funding, all this, everything, you have achieved this. They will say, okay, we will settle you more. That will, they will take the bill to the National Assembly for settlement. But now we are still fledgling. The volunteerism in the country is fledgling, and we are managing it, we are growing gradually. But we get to the point, the prospect is that people are investing in volunteerism. The more NGOs are coming, more people are invested, and we are moving towards the target for the development. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
I want to say something.
Yes, ma'am, please.
So sometimes advocacy can speed up something. So there are legislators in the National Assembly. Some of them have something that they want to do. It could just be a conversation with one person, and that person will decide. It happens. I see it happening. They just sponsor a bill. Even you, as the office or the units, do not know that they are trying to rearrange things and all of that. So yes, we know that it is your office and the work that you do that will project, but I also think that it can be accelerated on the other side. Thank you.
And I also agree with that, because if we are looking at that from a success and wins perspective, then the wins of every civil society organization in Nigeria is also a win for NNVS. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying tuned. It's been quite an in-depth and interesting conversation on volunteerism and national development. And the truth is, we cannot overemphasize the importance of volunteering in democracy. Our democracy cannot evolve or get to where we want it to be if we do not organize ourselves as citizens and push our democracy to where we want it to be. And most of this work is structured. It is not paid for. It is voluntary. So you realize that our contribution as citizens in Nigeria is a voluntary work. And if you ask me, the true heroes of Nigerian democracy are those ones who volunteer of their time, who volunteer of themselves to defend what we have, the democracy we have developed in our country. Please remember to sign up for our courses at PROGENDER.org. The reports will also be live on our website. Please go download them. And also, our podcast streams live on YouTube at PROGENDER TV. Thank you very much for the conversations. Thank you for sharing your insights, and stay tuned to the next episode. Thank you very much. I remain your humble host, Oji Stephen. See you next time. Cheers.